Hi, welcome back. In this chapter, we're going to talk about automatic call distribution or ACD. Now, ACD is probably one of the most important component of any contact center out there in the market. Whether you're using Cisco, Avaya, or Genesys, you will have the main component for the running the contact center is called the ACD. The purpose of the ACD is simple. Receive a call, distribute that call to appropriate resource based on certain business criteria. Now we'll talk about the business criteria more in details as we go through our call flow. But here we're going to give you the most important component that are surrounding the ACD functionality. So things like how ACD processes a call. We will talk about your interactive inflow and outflow features and how you design them. We'll talk about how to choose appropriate evaluations and combination of whether you want to select the most skills or the least skills or someone who has a better expertise than other. We'll talk about how agent utilization works. How does ACD skills and language skills can be used to select appropriate agent? We will learn about wrap-up codes of how to create them, and of course how to apply them within for your agents. We'll talk about how to control the call after call work, which is basically when an agent hangs up the call, how long they should wait before they can start receiving calls again. Finally, we will learn how to manage and create queues and assign them to appropriate agents. We'll go into more details about the architecture and the admin settings of our ACDs, as well as describing the web chat component, the email, and of course, how to test them. Now, the ACD processing. The Genesys Cloud ACD dynamically match a customer interactions with agent through the evaluation and routing method, which is specified in your queue settings. A customer interactions are usually processed by agent with the right skill set in the shortest amount of time. ACD can be set up in different ways. For example, ranging from basic forwarding to more complex skills-based routing, or it can be based on your contact center needs. Now, there are two main drivers of the ACD, time and skills. Now, the time, which is basically based on how long the customer has been on hold or which agent has been available for longest period of time. So that is one way of selecting the appropriate agent. Second way of selecting the appropriate agent will be based on the skill set. Skill set could be, for example, skills that are referred to agent's expertise. Give and take, I specialize more on collaboration, whereas I do have knowledge about routing switching as well. But if I were to go based on skills, any call coming to collaboration should come toward me, even though I can handle the calls for routing switching or security as for that matter. Genesys Cloud provides, and on top of that, Genesys Cloud adds the language preferences as well, which could be an additional to your skill set as another factor of routing decisions. Now, in order to control this, you have to have some sort of flow. Now, here we're going to talk about the interactions between the flow and the queue design. The contact center exists to put agent in contact with a customer, right? If a customer calls in, the purpose of to talk to an agent. An agent job is to deal with the customers. And that customer profile could be different depending on the purpose of the call center. What do I mean by that? It doesn't necessarily mean that customers are always has to be someone from outside the organization. It could be your own employee acting as a customer. So from a contact center perspective, customer could be anybody who's dialing for an agent or need to talk to an agent. A contact center might be as simple as a group of agents who can take an inbound customer service call, or much more complex for a group of agents handling inbound and outbound calls. Or it could be also web-based chat, SMS, social media messages, email, and other media type. A customer who calls into the contact center, be it outside users or internal, has a specific need that they want to meet in the shortest amount of time possible. Imagine your salesperson needs a help with their let's say a computer because some reason is freezing. Well, you don't want that salesperson whose job is to generate revenue for the company to be waiting in a queue for the longest period of time. You want to answer that person as soon as possible. Agent that they are connected to needs to have a very specific knowledge. Now, if you send that salesperson's call to, let's say, someone who's dealing with product development, well, that may not solve that salesperson's requirement as fast as possible because you went to the wrong department. So you want to make sure that the customers, whether it is inside or outside, call will be routed to appropriate resource based on the selection made by the customer. Now, there are two ways to handle an incoming interactions from the customer. The method you choose will depend on the structure of your contact center and how you want to handle the incoming interactions. Now, you can do one of the following from the two. First, easiest way to handle incoming interaction is to create a group of agents with a specific skills. Genesys Cloud will route the interactions to all the agents either sequentially or randomly from that particular group. The another way of handling incoming interaction is to create a queue of agent with a specific skills and a wrap-up code assigned to it. So the first one is very simple. You get a group and you get 10 people into the group. Call comes in, one of those 10 people will be selected either in a sequential manner or randomly selected. But the second option is where you have a queue with the specific skills. Out of those 10 people, maybe 2 of them will be specialized in collaboration, or remaining 8 could be more focused on security product. And you can also assign a wrap-up code assigned to it. Wrap-up code means when an agent answers a call or hang up the call, then they may need to choose a code before they can go and answer in next incoming call. Routing and evaluation method can be configured in that second option. Now, this technique is often known as the ACD processing. While the ACD routing is more complex way to handle interaction, it does provide you the opportunity to optimize the way Genesys handles all the calls. ACD processing will help route interactions to an agent who can help them the shortest possible way, and of course the person with the most expertise. This method also allows you to gather the important data while the call is waiting in the queue. For example, getting information about the call, contacting a backend database, back office infrastructure, pull information about that call before even the agent and the caller says the word hello. For incoming interactions, of course, we'll talk more in details about that when we learn how to deal with the call flow. But before you dive into that, you want to set up a routing parameter for your contact center. You should understand some of the basic terminology when used in designing interactions, flows, and queues. For example, first of all, an interaction. What is an interaction? An interaction is a customer communications, be it a phone, web chat, or email. It is some way a customer to communicate with you that connects a customer to an appropriate automated resources or an even agent. Now, not every call needs to communicate with the agent. You have to keep that in mind. Some of those calls could be simply going to a menu and then to a predefined message, or like, for example, office hours. Someone is looking for directions. You could have that interactions pointing to a pre-recorded messages, or you could connect to an agent. The type of interaction could include voice call, the chat messages, which is SMS, email, callback feature, and of course, social expressions. Now, the routing perspective, the next component is the routing. The routing is a process of directing incoming call to an individual agent or a queue based on established criteria. Now, the criteria might be send the call to a queue first to listen to an IVR, or send the calls to queue first, connect to an agent, and if agent is not available, then listen to an IVR. So you got a couple of choices here. Now, When you want to send a calls to queue based on certain criteria, and those criteria could be a skill set, location, time of the day, and other defined attribute. Now we'll talk about those attributes as we go through this course. Queue, which is a both a waiting line of an interactions and group of agent assigned to receive those interactions. So think about queue is not necessarily just where the call will come in and just simply wait. No, it's like a group settings. So if I create a queue called sales, well, that you can also consider that a sales group. So now I got 10 people assigned to the queue or 10 people assigned to the group, depending on how you want to look at it. The only difference is that if agent is not available, then the call will remain in that particular group or the queue. So the term queue refers to either interaction or an agent group, depending on the context. Contact center normally dedicate a queue to a specific type of interactions. For example, support call goes to support queue, sales calls go to sales queue, product development goes to development queue, for example, or it could be an email going to an email queue. Some queue are called blended because the agent can handle both type of interactions, both inbound and outbound. So if you have a particular queue that you create that is going to be used for both incoming call and outbound call, you'll if refer to as a blended queue. Then you have skills. Skills is an expertise or a knowledge that agent must have to handle the interactions. For example, VoiceBootcamp offers various different courses. We have Cisco courses, Amazon courses, Microsoft Team, we have Genesys, as well as WebEx. For each type of courses, I can create a skills. And I have someone who's more specialized on selling WebEx, someone who's more specialized on the Genesys, and I can assign those agent or representative into that appropriate skills group. So think about skills is like an expertise or knowledge that agent must have in order to handle the interactions. The skills might be Linux, Windows, billing, or sales. Agent with assigned skills will have a proficiency rating for the skills, which indicates the agent level of expertise. Now, I am someone who has been with collaboration technology for like 12 plus years versus someone who is only 1 year of experience. So therefore, you may want to assign me, I wouldn't do that myself, but the company might decide to provide a proficiency rating for me a little bit higher than someone who has 2 years of experience. Because obviously I have a lot more hands-on and more academic as well as real-world experience compared to someone who's just 1 year old, not age-wise, but I'm talking about skills-wise. Now, so these proficiency rating basically indicate the agent level of expertise and knowledge. Administrator can can configure the Genesys Cloud ACD to consider proficiency rating when matching an agent and their interactions. So the last terminology that you need to be familiar with is the interaction flow. Interaction flow. In Genesys, you will have a call that are route. Genesys Cloud will route all incoming interaction to appropriate queue based on the type of interaction and the call flow configurations. For example, calls are routed via inbound call flow in your architect. So if you want to handle all inbound call, you want to go to the architect and create an inbound call flow. You cannot assign an outbound call flow to an inbound call. Emails are routed directly to queue based on the admin settings or via the inbound email call flow that you create in architect. ACD messages are routed via the architect inbound message flow. So for each type of flow, there is a specific one. You got inbound call, inbound messages, and you got inbound email flow. Chat, of course, directly are routed directly to the queue based on the settings in the original web page. And social expressions such as Facebook, Twitters are routed directly to the queue based on the admin settings for those queue. So these are some of the terminology that you should be familiar with when it comes to understanding your ACD functionality of your Genesys Cloud. Now, as far as we're going to go through more in depth of each one of them as we go through this course. And we're going to learn how to configure them, how to implement them, and how to test them in our lab. Now, we're going to stop here for this particular video sections of our chapter 3 of part 1. And in the next subsequent part 2 of chapter 3, we're going to talk about the evaluation method.